All right, this is episode 100, right? Am I correct? I'm not good at math. You're the math guy on this show, so you tell me.
Ooh, 100. Keep it 100. It is the 100th episode.
Man, I feel like it is very cliche to say I can't believe that we made it this far, but cliches exist for a reason. I truly can't believe we made it this far. I'd like to say, I believed in us the whole time. I thought this was going to be a huge success. And to some extent I did, but, 100 is a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, when you go into anything, you're like, okay, well, this will at least do something, right? But you never, literally, I think when we told people we were doing this, like, the first thing people told us was like, well, what is it? On average, a podcast only lasts 20 episodes, some shit, like, where people were just trying to tell us why not to do it.
You texted me a New York Times article before we started saying that most podcasts fail, and I was like, what are you trying to say?
No, I was just trying to say we were going to beat that, but...
Oh, okay. Well, you didn't clarify that, so I was like, all
well,
right.
in that article, because I can remember that article, it literally talked about why they failed. Now, I think that's why I was sending it. Was like, let's not do this.
Well, I think everybody that talked to us, they were like, "Yeah, I'll give you 25 at best." So
yeah, probably they would have probably, but yeah, 100 huge. Let's talk about the elephant in the room real quick before we move on, Chuck. We have done 100 episodes, but we don't have 100 published episodes. Because somebody might look at it and be like,
for that.
Yeah, and somebody might look at it and be like, hey, you don't actually have 100. Well, technically we have recorded 100 episodes, but we've had to take some down in the long run. It just happens. Either some things happen that we don't want to talk about anymore. We have Queer Appalachia. We had to take that down. If you haven't heard, you can go back and listen to some of our other episodes where we talk about that. But there's, we have reasons to take episodes down.
Look, King Griffey Jr. didn't hit a home run every single time he was up at bat. Sometimes he struck out, sometimes he hit a single. That happens. Like we're not perfect. We're human, and we've had a lot of swing and a miss, so to speak, on some of ours. And we're all about giving you the best stuff, not the bottom of the barrel.
That's the other thing is like the stuff we took down, like it wasn't even just because we were wrong. Because like I'm wrong all the time. It was because it just wasn't good content. Like in the long run, like nobody wants to go back and listen to episodes about the Democratic primary of 2020. It's just boring.
No, it fucking sucks. All right,
we took it down. We took it down for you, really.
Speaking of things that are worthy of being unpublished and taken down, why not kick off episode number 100 with, a returning champion of stupidity on this show, Mad Dog 2020 himself, Madison Cawthorn. I saw this clip and I thought this would be a fun thing to start out with. So, and I'm going to roll a clip in the episode on this, but our friend Madison Cawthorn, foe of the show, as I like to call him, had an interesting take on the United States Constitution, John. And for those of you not listening, it's a founding document of this nation. Madison Cawthorn said it would be illegal for airlines to require vaccines because we have a constitutionally protected right to free, unrestricted travel within the United States. I'm going to roll clips so you all can hear it.
We should be encouraging them to reject this. This is a medical apartheid, plain and simple. There's over 100 million Americans who are not vaccinated. I think it's even more than that. And if they want to start shutting down air travel for these people to get around the country, I think that's actually a constitutional violation because you actually have a constitutionally protected right to free, unrestricted travel within the United States of America. And I genuinely believe that what's going on right now is that all that's going to happen if United Airlines and American Airlines and Delta even, if they decide to start requiring vaccine mandates, let me tell you, I'm very confident there will be another air carrier that will come to the field and patriots like myself and you will give them all of our business.
Okay, so that's Mad Dog himself. He was on Newsmax, a very reputable news source, of course. John, as an almost newly minted lawyer, I want to get your take on this because, every lawyer is a constitutional scholar as well as everybody with a Twitter account. So go off. Let's see what you think on this. Is he right? Is he wrong?
Wow. You know what? That makes sense now. We now have some authority to talk about things. I mean, I'm going to be wrong most of the time, but I'll have at least like 3 letters next to my name. So that's kind of cool.
Well, I have 3 letters next to my name. It's like CHAR. It's 4, yeah.
Well, that is your name, not next to your name.
Well, JDMJ. That's 4.
Right. You are the Michael Jordan of Juris Doctorates.
Definitely not, because I didn't even take the bar.
You can still be the Michael Jordan of Juris Doctorates.
No, that's not true, man. Look, don't.
Anyway,
I appreciate you trying to flatter me, but
you're the best non-attorney I know, and I'm not.
Yeah, that's right. God damn it.
Anyway, even though I did once buy you a thing that said Charles Cora, attorney at law.
I was looking for it. It's where did it go?
I remember reading the Constitution for the first time and them talking about like the ability just to drive through wherever you want to drive through and get on any plane you want to get on. I think that's even in the First Amendment.
It is. It's right. You know, you're entitled to peanuts as well and one free drink,
right, yep.
I believe. Yeah, the founding fathers were
Spirit,
very clear.
Spirit's
very
breaking
clear.
the law. Spirit is breaking the law.
Spirit Airlines is unconstitutional inherently. The founding fathers were very clear about that. It's been litigated a lot, but the Supreme Court has upheld it. Yeah.
No
Pieces
peanuts, no
shit.
peace. No peanuts, no peace. That's my new
Look,
protest.
and I mean, honestly, and that's why people with peanut allergies are inherently un-American.
Oh, you're right. And that's not us saying that. That's Madison.
Yeah, no, don't listen to me. I disagree with that particular jurisprudence. And, you know, the founding fathers had lots of problems, including owning people. But so take it for what it's worth. That was James Madison, not me.
That's true. That is. I'm just glad that we have a constitutional hero like Madison who has taken the time.
Thank God.
Who has taken the time throughout his entire adult life to really focus on the Constitution. Really
all like
get
25
to know
years,
that
right?
To really get to know that document. You know, I'm really excited to have him, telling us about it.
He spent some intimate time with it. Took it out for some candlelight dinners at the National Archives.
Took it over
really
to Hitler's
got to
house.
know it. Yeah, right. Wined it and dined it.
He wined it and dined it.
Is this, in your opinion, a weird interpretation of the Interstate Commerce Clause, or am I giving way too much credit to Mad Dog 2020 for even knowing that the Interstate Commerce Clause exists?
I'm sure that his staffers will try and say that.
Okay.
I'm not convinced that he personally knows what it is because, like, shit, I mean, you know, like, even the Dormant Commerce Clause, which that thing, Jesus Christ.
I don't know any of these fucking things. I had to look up Commerce Clause.
Oh, well, the Commerce Clause sucks. It's a terrible part of the not that the actual thing sucks. I'm saying to study it sucks. I don't think he knows what this is. I think he just likes to say that people have a right to do literally anything. Because people vote for rights. People vote for rights. That's what they do.
Yeah, and well, it's not exactly politically popular to be against rights. So, you know, and there's not going to be any negative backlash for him on this. So honestly, this is he's doing everything in his favor. So from a political standpoint, right on target, buddy. From a moral standpoint, way off board. From a stupidity standpoint, nail on the fucking head, though. Good for him. So, and I think to summarize this, it looks like we figured a lot of things out in this conversation, this intro. Spirit Airlines, unconstitutional. People with peanut allergies, un-American. Madison Cawthorn, constitutional champion. And you know what? That might be an award in the Appalachia second annual award show. Constitutional champion will go to Madison Cawthorn, I'm sure.
I hope so. I hope he wins.
All right, so today, John, this was a little bit of a surprise, I think, topic because at the beginning of the week or the beginning of last week, didn't really expect to be talking about this, but what a day! Amazon factory towns. Oh man, that sounds like a dystopian novel, a la Ready Player One or something like that, right? Or like Hunger Games or Divergent or something, where in the future we're all just slaves to Amazon.
Yeah. When we saw this, man, holy crap! I thought it was a joke at first. I really did.
I guess I wanted to believe it was, but then at the same time, it's like, no, this actually does seem like the natural progression of Amazon. Sadly.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have told me this is where they're headed, I would have believed you 100%.
Oh, well, because Jeff Bezos is going to create all these towns, and he's just going to fly away to the moon and create more, of course. So, what are we talking about? Well, there's an article that came out in Bloomberg Opinion, and let me just so this isn't the first time this has come up, but I think this article just got a lot of traction. I don't know. I think Bloomberg actually has a deal with Twitter where they promote their shit, because I always see fucking Bloomberg and Business Insider articles on the trending all the time. But anyway, there was an article in Bloomberg Opinion, that's important, opinion, about Amazon's new factory towns and how they will quote-unquote lift up the working class. Well, before that, I wanted to point out something real quick, which is like the whole premise of this for us is Amazon already has so much power in this country. They employ, and this actually was kind of startling, the statistic to me, as of late June, so that's obviously changed because we're in mid-September right now, or really late September, they employed 950,000 Americans, or 1 in every 153 working, like people with a job in this country. With plans to add another 125,000 more this year and open up 100 more facilities in September alone. So in this month alone, they will open up 100 facilities. They're taking over this. Look, we joke about this, but literally, they are taking over this fucking country.
Without a doubt. I mean, we thought Walmart was scary. I mean,
yeah. No,
this
makes
is a
Walmart
whole
look
new
like
level.
fucking Bush League. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a whole new level, and I don't think people really. I won't say that they don't understand it. I just don't think. I think they're kind of taking it for granted, maybe a little bit.
It's easy to not really appreciate the magnitude of it because Amazon is not really a traditional brick and mortar like you see it. Walmart's everywhere. So, and Amazon, like, yeah, you see a distribution facility scattered around, but it's an online company. So maybe like you're just not exposed to it visually all the time. But my God, like, if you think about 1 in every 153 people that are working, that's in a massive amount of people.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, the amount of jobs that Amazon is able to create, like, obviously we can get into how awful their working conditions can be, but it's incredible, like, how it just seems like they could create jobs out of thin air. Like, literally could just create 100,000 jobs. They kind of
can.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's that crazy.
And I think that's sort of their absurd business model is that they can, because they are essentially, I mean, I don't want to get it completely into this right now, but I mean, they're manufacturing their own generic brand of almost everything, or they can be at this point. And so then they literally could be creating things out of thin air. It's wild. But so we'll talk a little bit about this article about the factory towns, but then we'll also talk a little bit about the less than wonderful history of company towns, as every Appalachian has probably heard of. So this article, written by a investment person, I don't know, a financial professional portfolio manager, so take that for what it's worth, former hedge fund manager. And I picked a quote out of this article because I thought it was very telling of kind of what this whole concept is about these factory towns and quote unquote lifting the working class. So this is from the article, quote, burgeoning new places strung along the interstate and other highways leading away from urban cores populated by warehouses and fulfillment centers that are being built to serve the needs of e-commerce customers. These are places where working class jobs are being created in large numbers and where wages are already rising. They're not much in the spotlight yet, but making these modern-day company towns more livable for the working class might be a better approach to solving inequality, with a higher likelihood of success than continuing to fight against entrenched interests in coastal cities and high-cost parts of metro areas. But the point is that, and this is another quote separate from this, point is that we need to be thinking about what sorts of communities are being created by the growth of U.S. e-commerce infrastructure and what they'll need to thrive. So the idea behind this is that this person's advocating for, and this is what Amazon's doing already, they're putting these huge distribution facilities in these more rural areas outside of metro urban cores and essentially creating a community around it, which is what, a lot of places have done before. You look at like a lot of old factories, like in Alcoa, Tennessee, for example, literally was named after the plant that was there. I believe it was an aluminum plant. And so that's the idea here. I'm a little bit suspect of the author knowing what's good for the working class. I don't know much about him, but he's had a career in what seems to be like finance and financial management throughout most of his career. So I question what his credibility is with like speaking for the working class. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, come on. This guy, like I said, or like you said, we don't know him personally, but you were able to do a little bit of research on the guy and found out that he's more of a JD Vance-esque type financial situation.
Well, I haven't. That's probably true. I haven't read all this stuff, and there have been some people that said that he writes some good articles. Maybe he does. I don't know. But to say that something like this is good for the working class, I don't know that I've seen the credentials that would show that he could speak for that. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly don't. I don't know what those credentials look like. To be quite honest, I just don't know. I mean, maybe somebody who obviously works on that, but I don't know what those qualifications look like. But I do. Anytime I see hedge fund in someone's background, I get a little nervous when they start talking about working class, because working class is not related to a hedge fund at all.
No, and he's written articles that have been sort of sympathetic to Amazon in the past, and I think there was this idea that, Amazon's this tech company and tech companies are doing good, and then, over the past 5-ish years, 10 years, we've learned that's not necessarily the case, and in most cases they're not. And this is, I think, another example of it. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I think tech companies have gotten around what coal companies have been through. So, like, I've always thought this, like, a lot of the times people who write these types of articles kind of look at Amazon and they go, well, at least it's not this, right? Like, they'll say, like, at least it's not coal, for instance, because they mistreat their workers sometimes, and it's a terrible thing for the environment, yada, 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 and they create excuses. But then when you look into Amazon, they should be scrutinized for what they're doing to people. Like, so I think Amazon and tech companies get a pass a lot of the times because they're looked at as like better jobs. But when you start to dig deeper, that's not always the case. So it's not always better for the place.
Absolutely. And we'll get into, I think, some of the misconceptions about that, and especially about how on the surface that looks like they're doing a lot of really good work. But on the subject of factory towns, now the idea sounds like it maybe has some merit on its face, because you think, okay, you're building a community around a town, or you're building a town around a place where people work, and practically that does make sense. But the history of company towns tends to go in a different direction, I think, especially in Appalachian, especially when it comes to coal companies. And when you look at someone like an organization like Amazon, which is this massively mega corporation that controls so much and will continue to just eat up small businesses and eat up other economies and create one unto itself, you give a corporation like that much power, and they get to do whatever they want. And so I did like a TikTok video about this. I fucking hate that I even can say that, but about the history of like coal company towns. And as you know, John, I mean, there's a great song. I can't remember who originally sang it, but it was covered by the legend himself, Johnny Cash, and the song 16 Tons, which talks about working at the company store and getting paid less and less. Well, in coal mining towns, as you will recall, these were in very rural, remote communities, very similar to what they're talking about here, where they essentially built communities around the coal mines, had the miners work there. The company essentially owned everything. They owned the housing, they owned the store, and they owned the money that you used to pay for the stuff at the store. So the company was benefiting from everything. And at the same time, they started decreasing the price of coal, cost per ton or cost per pound or whatever it was. And so the employees ended up actually getting into debt a lot of times with the coal companies. And it just was this horrible cycle that was just crippling the middle class and led essentially to a labor uprising. I'm not going to go into full detail with it right now, but I will link to some really great materials from the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum where they talk about it more in depth. But suffice it to say, the idea behind a company town, especially in Appalachia, was one where the company controlled every aspect of that economy and essentially operated a form of indentured servitude.
Yeah, I mean, this is the funny part is, like, I think reading this, I think one thing that the author of it overlooks is the fact that when you create these types of towns, their reliance creates, I won't say, reliance on one entity creates oppression because there is no job movement, right? Like, you can't go and be like,
No.
well, I'll just go to this other employer if you're going to treat me like, there isn't. That doesn't exist. So when you create these kind of like little areas where only one company runs the town, essentially, even if that's not what they're going for, but that ends up happening, we've seen it throughout the entire region where one industry runs one section of the region and then they leave. And what happens? That entire section of the region then goes into a deep depression.
Gee, sounds like coal.
Oh, wow. Or
now, I don't see
today's
e-commerce going away anytime soon, but still.
Or today's like oil and gas, right? Like West Virginia's starting to get to that point, for instance,
Right.
where oil and gas was booming and booming and booming, but once construction's over and they're getting the resource, they're done. They don't hire any people.
Yeah. Once you tap out a well, then,
It's over.
it's on to the next one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, again,
true.
you're right. E-commerce isn't going away anytime soon, but that type of dependence on one entity creates this oppressive ability of that entity.
Right. And I think because it's not going away, it actually does create the same effect in a way because it becomes the only game in town. And if you look, we mentioned before at the top of this show, Amazon owns 1 out of every 153 employees in this country. And that number is only going to expand. Like that fraction is only going to get, I guess, smaller. Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
The denominator is only going to get smaller. There you go. A little bit of math for you.
And think about it too, like when we're saying like, oh, e-commerce isn't going anywhere, but think about this: 100 years ago, it's the same thing they thought about coal too. Like, oh, coal's not going anywhere. Like, and for a long time it didn't.
Yeah,
for a long time it didn't.
I would say that I think Amazon is better at evolving.
Well, it
than
doesn't.
coal
It also
is,
doesn't
but-
depend on a natural resource, recurring.
Right, like you said, they literally create jobs out of nothing, which is essentially that's what they're doing, and they're going to keep doing it. And I think, well, before I get into that, we did put this thing out, which I thought we got some really great responses to this. We put out a post on social media. So the company store is a very important trope of the company towns because it's all a sham. And in a traditional coal company store, you had to use coal script to buy products that was company money that you could only use in the company store, which is a complete fucking racket. And so we thought it'd be funny if we took some of the best replies to this post. We said, what is something that will be found in the Amazon company store? Wrong answers only, although some of these answers, as you will be able to tell, were very spot on. John, I included some. I don't know if you had any other favorites, but I included some here. Handy helper robots that supposedly watch your kids and are cheaper than daycare so you can do overtime without worry. That definitely is a right answer, but I love where the people were going with that. Hillbilly Elegy audiobook, of course. Absolutely. That's actually probably close to the Bible, I think, there. This is really funny. Duty-free tampons. Amazon basic branded moonshine.
Oh God.
Free will.
Ooh.
Free
Okay.
will. That's a good. And this is a personal favorite of mine, very North Korean. Free speech vouchers.
Oh shit. Madison will be passing those out.
Oh my, yeah, he'll be shitting those out. Yeah. NFTs of Jeff Bezos working out.
Honestly, that is a very real possibility.
That might exist already. Dog food for humans.
Okay.
Damn, bathroom break passes for The Office.
Well,
That's
The Office
brilliant.
will be Amazon. You have to buy your fucking bathroom breaks.
I think that was the
there. You
joke.
go.
Yeah, no. Half-ply toilet.
Well, there you go for your bathroom break.
Yeah, you got to purchase them
Yeah,
both.
they're not going
I
to
hope you
provide
have
it.
enough Amazon script.
Yep.
The hell? Fuck no. Baby's first shipping lines comes with toy crank conveyor belt and Amazon
pretty
boxes. Can't start them too
Yeah,
early.
got to start them early.
And this was a good one. You have to. I mean, look, if you're not doing that, I mean, what's the productivity level of your baby whose name is B Pound 1287 because they probably don't get real names there. And then this last one was great. It was just Baby Dog. Baby Dog available for purchase at the Amazon company
Honestly, Baby
store.
Dog should be cloned.
I mean, we've done it with Dolly the sheep, and that was like in the 90s. So
I did an entire debate speech on that. Jesus Christ.
yeah, what were you debating? Whether we should clone sheep?
No, there's a thing called After Dinner. I don't remember if it was there when you were there, but it's essentially you take a topic and you tell a story, but you essentially do stand-up comedy while making a point.
Oh, after dinner is when I go to Taco Bell and
get second dinner.
A couple of the get the couple of the Doritos Locos tacos. Yeah, fourth meal time. So thank you for all the people that submitted those. Those were
good.
Absolutely brilliant. There were so many more. I had to pick a few and go with it, but the answers to that were absolutely hilarious. So. And I wanted to get into actually a comment that someone had sent us. It was a Lexington county commissioner or city council person.
I saw that, yeah. I think it's a city councilman.
But yeah, I think you're right. And it is a very good question, but I wanted to point out an example because the whole argument behind Amazon lifting up the working class, I think there's probably some legitimate examples of it, but there's also like a lot of statistics that would show the opposite of that. Now, they like to tout their minimum, like I think they pay at least $15 an hour, maybe $18, I don't know, which is a good wage starting out, I'm sure. But the thing about this to remember is that the people that are like analyzing this, that are writing these articles, they're not talking to Amazon workers as far as I can tell. They're sitting in an office looking at raw numbers. And when you look at those numbers, it looks good on paper. They look and they see that Amazon's establishing a wage floor in communities and job creation spurred. And it all sounds great, but it doesn't tell the full story about how Amazon decimates small businesses and communities and about how their consolidation is eventually creating a de facto megacorp that is going to control everything in a weird, like capitalistic socialism type of way. And so one thing I wanted to point out real quick is that there is an example from San Bernardino and where there is a huge Amazon facility that was built there. The share of people living in poverty in San Bernardino was 28.1% in 2016. There's a little bit of data latcha for you. Compared to 23.4 in 2011, the year before Amazon arrived. So there was, the poverty went up afterwards. I'm not saying that causation are a thing, but it certainly didn't cause poverty to decrease and lift up the middle class like they were suggesting. The median household income also went down in 2016. There was about $38,456, 4% lower than it was in 2011. And so you're thinking like, okay, well, this is like the Inland Empire or whatever of California. So whatever, I mean, like that's just one place and it's an urban area. But if you look at it, there's a Policy Matters Ohio did a study. They found that 1 in 10 Amazon employees in Ohio is on food stamps.
Wow.
To me, that's not lifting up the working class.
Nope.
I don't know about you.
Look, this is what makes me mad about Amazon, right? Is that for years and years and years I've heard people on the left complain about Walmart doing this same thing, but then when it comes to Amazon, because it's it's flashy and it can create 30,000 jobs all of a sudden,
And it's a bunch of Silicon Valley people that they think are
Correct.
liberals.
But now it's okay. Even though those 30,000 jobs that will come in, 15,000 of those people are now going to live off public assistance because Amazon refuses to pay them a livable wage. We've complained about big businesses doing this, but because Amazon is hip and cool and everybody kind of has this like, it's like Apple. They have a glowing admiration for Amazon. Amazon and Apple are kind of in the same. It's like Target too. Target has this weird like Target type feel to it, right? I don't get it. It frustrates me because Chuck, if we would have posted that tweet about Walmart, no one would have argued with us. They would have said, yeah, you're right. Like Walmart, they're trash. They treat people badly. And then when we posted about Amazon, it's like, well, kind of, but they get the pass.
Because it's a tech company, because, you know, as a brand, universally, in every like morning consult poll you'll see, it gets good marks. And they do pay their employees above minimum wage. I think their starting wage is something like $18 an hour, which, like, on its surface, yeah, that sounds great. But when you look at how they treat their employees, and when you look at the fact that there's still huge problems with these people living in poverty, then you have to question, like, okay, what are they really doing that's helpful? You know, it's a multi-billion-dollar company, but how much are the employees, the people who are doing the labor, actually seeing of that? Like, yeah, you can tout that you have, like, a good minimum wage, but if you're working your employees to the fucking death and they're not seeing the fruits, they're not seeing any of the dividends of the wealth that they're producing for the company, I mean, what can you really say about that?
It also should make you question, too. So I always question companies that say, we're going to bring 30,000 jobs, for instance, right? Because that's a huge number. But to me, that screams we're going to hire a bunch of people part-time, and we're not going to give them benefits, and we're going to get around the ability, you know, the mandate to do that. We're going to pay them. Let's say they do pay them $18 an hour, but they only work them part-time because they have now 30,000 new employees. But instead, if they would hire, I don't know, like 15,000, imagine the money that they could pay them full-time, right? Yes, number of jobs is a great thing. However, you have to look deeper into it and look at what they're actually meaning. How many of those are full-time? How many of those have a livable wage? How many of those are part-time and will essentially create less benefits for the people working? It's a ton of stuff to look into rather than just looking at a number on a page.
Right. And I'm just to clarify here, their income or their revenue from 2020 was $386 billion. Their operating income was $23 billion. A lot of money. They could let that trickle down a little bit. Now, I did want to point out we actually got a very legitimate comment from City Commissioner, Lexington City Commissioner Luke Glazer. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, which is a very legitimate question I wanted to bring up. He said, my dudes, if Amazon offered 1,000 jobs in Hazard, Kentucky, paying $40,000 a year, we'd be politically crucified for not welcoming that. Very true. We can diversify and protect against exploitation and future potential instability. Could you reasonably make this argument to my unemployed constituents? Very good question. John, do you want to take a stab at that first? I've got some thoughts, but
my first thought is, okay, that makes sense, right? Like, they bring 1,000 jobs guaranteed to pay $40,000 in Hazard, Kentucky. Okay, like, I get that. That's great, right? I don't like the comment of we can fix things afterwards. That is, to me, that's a very dangerous political game because anytime a company comes to your area, you make agreements. You have to give them something to bring them in. So this ability to then go back and fix doesn't actually exist most of the time. Most of the time, you're stuck with what you've agreed to. So I think that that's a very dangerous type of mindset when it comes to politics in general. Like, okay, we'll let it go for now, but we're going to fix it in the future. That worries me. 1,000 jobs at $40,000 in Hazard, Kentucky obviously is great. We know that. We also know that there are issues that come along with that we have to be prepared for now rather than a wait and see mentality, is my opinion. That's just my opinion.
I think so it is a good question. So the point that we're getting at with this is not that we are against jobs coming into communities. It's we're against communities forming around one mega corporation. I think that's the point that we're trying to get at, because it involves, like, inherently and historically involves that company being able to retain so much control and so much power over those employees that they're not able to, I think, operate in a fair environment where they have equal labor, where they have labor rights that are fair and equal. Now, what I would say to that is that for something like that, if it was coming to Hazard, Kentucky, there are a lot of things that communities are doing to try and ensure that the community and the workers are getting fair treatment and a fair shake of what's happening. So, like, a lot of places where, like, in Nashville, for example, the Stand Up Nashville is an organization that formed to form a community benefits agreement, a CBA, for the new soccer stadium, for example, because the new soccer stadium was going to be in a place where it was low-income communities. It was going to, obviously, when you build something like that and you have a lot of economic activity, it's going to gentrify the area. They wanted community benefits to ensure that money was going to affordable housing, that they were going to hire union workers to build the stadium. I don't remember all the details of it, but it was something where it was like the community was involved. It wasn't just a large corporation airdropping in and just doing what they say because, you know, economic impact and whatnot. It was where there was a collective agreement among the company and among the people, and they came to an agreement where they were able to protect some of their interests and values. And I think that that's important when it comes to something like this. Obviously, like, just because we don't like Amazon doesn't mean we don't want good paying jobs coming to Hazard. And I know that's not what he was implying. I think it was, you know. But I think that when it comes to something like that, the community has to be involved with it. And it has to be something where you can still retain an independence of a community and not a corporate-run community. I do not like that. And, like, I know that some people will disagree with that, but I think it just gives companies too much power. And there will be a lot of people that will say, well, Amazon won't do what coal companies did. You sure about that? Give them a chance, and they will. It may happen over time. It may be slower, but look at how much power they exercise over their employees right now. I mean, they track every single step that they take. So that's my thing. I'm not inherently against that, and I think that anything that can help build wealth and pull people out of poverty in Hazard, Kentucky, let's talk about it, let's do it. But this is something where it's like, it has to be where you're not ceding all of your power and all of your control and all of your independence to one company. That's my opinion as an armchair.
It's also bullshit to think that only coal companies can do this, right? Like, you and I grew up in West Virginia, but we didn't grow up in a coal town. But we did grow up in a company town, very much so. DuPont, baby, which controlled our entire town. If you go and you watch,
it controls our circulatory system.
That's true. My nervous system is fucked. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, C8.
I've got forever chemicals.
Who needs jacked when you have C8, right? Or Jack 3D, whatever it is. The whole sorry,
pronounce it correctly.
The whole point is, like, you have to create checks beforehand because we know what happens when we don't, right? And I think DuPont is a great example of that. Not only have they controlled town after town after town, they poisoned 98% of the population of the world and got away with it. So don't tell me that there's the ability to go back and create policy to fix what you've already allowed to be implemented. It doesn't happen. Yes, it's a great in theory. It just doesn't happen. And that's the frustrating thing, and that's what I want people to know. To just get prepared to do that. Those jobs are great, but create a structure in which they're checked. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think just in general, I worry a lot about Amazon's cultivation of power. And this is just another way for them to do it and to control people. Because look how powerful they are already. There's no sign that it's gonna turn around. And again, I don't want to, like, sound ignorant to the potential benefits of something like this. There's obviously, like, with anything, there are potential positives, and you know, there that is a thing. But it's like, it's hard for me to see how something where consolidating entire communities around one mega corporation is going to benefit the working class. I just don't see it. So I'm happy to be proven wrong. But
100%. Like, if Amazon can prove me wrong, cool. It's just they haven't proven me wrong yet. Like that, you know.
They've been coming at Big John so that's why they call him Teflon Big John, and it's not just because
not
of
because I'm
DuPont poisoning
I
the
live
water.
I live the gimmick. I live it.
Yeah, that's true. We good on this, guy? Anything else you want to add?
That's it. And I just want to clarify, like, I'm not, when I say these things, I'm not attacking the idea that the commissioner is saying. The idea makes sense. It's just, in application, I think we have to look at a couple different things. And I'm sure that Hazard would be a great place for these jobs. That's not the point we're going for. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Right. And while we don't like Amazon as a general principle, like, we understand the need for good paying jobs, and there are good ways to do it. Like, community benefits agreements is good policy, and it puts the people, it gives them skin in the game, and it gives them stake in what's happening in their community rather than just ceding it all to the corporations. And I think it's good policy that should be pursued with stuff like that. That's all I would say. But speaking of which, let's move into the last segment, should we? This is this the 100th beef?
No, I'm sure I've
Technically,
skipped.
probably?
I'm sure I've skipped one or two. I think in total I have skipped 2 beefs. One before, yeah, 2 beefs I've skipped. So this is the 98th.
All right. Well, that's not as fun, but the 98th beef with Big John. They call him the Duke, the Bush's baked beans dog of beef, guardian of the secret family recipe of striking fear in the hearts of those spewing bullshit his way. Ladies, gentlemen, gender non-binary folks worldwide, beef with Big John.
Ladies and gentlemen and gender non-binary folks worldwide, we are pleased to present to you the beef-eating mouth of the South, coming to you live from a foreclosed Ponderosa back-to-back buffet world champion beef with the Big John.
First off, I want to say, I think what Chuck does every week, he spends his quality time creating these things. But if somebody,
it's a labor
if
of
somebody
love.
wants to, if someone wants to create a jingle for Beef with Big John, I will totally accept that jingle and we will play it. Because
again, I've created a hell of an intro, but yes, let's we'll put it upon the people.
Right. So if you're talented and you're much more talented than I am, create something. I'm sure we'll work it in. Anyway, this week's beef, I'm just gonna make simple, man. This week's beef is just, I'm so sick now. Like we as people and we as Democrats or liberals or whatever you want to call it, have harped on the fact that we need to hold politicians accountable, but we haven't done so. And we haven't done a good job of proving why. So like, for instance, it should be, in my opinion, pretty easy to beat Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Because of all the things that she's done. She's caused thousands of deaths because of what she's posted about being anti-vaccine and things. Like, she has to live with that. And I'm sure she doesn't even think about it. Probably doesn't even affect her day to day. It would me, but it doesn't her. She should be easily beatable. I don't think that that's being capitalized on enough. Do you know who's running against MTG? I used to know.
Marcus Flowers is one candidate. He's on more of like the centrist Democrat, but then there is one on the left who I will look up while you're talking, but I cannot remember their name off the top of my head.
But my whole point on that is those people, I watched it in 2020. They should be going viral on responses to everything that she says. Everything, every word, because that's what they have to do to beat her. And that's what worries me about what's going on is I don't think Democrats, again, they're not capitalizing on idiocracy, which is what MTG spews. Same with Madison, Mad Dog, right? Again,
Mad Dog 2020.
No one is capitalizing on him saying dumb shit. And it's so infuriating. Like, it would be different if no one had any interest in these jobs, right? Like, if there was no one running, I'd be like, well, I get it. But there are people lined up to be the Democratic nominee in those areas, and we're not capitalizing. What is going on is my question. Like, with every time this happens, new deaths occur, new families are affected, and more political discussion should be had, and it's not happening. And so to me, one, they're going to get reelected because of this, because it's just inability to creatively campaign. And two,
Truth.
that leads to more deaths and terrible things that are going to happen for this country. And I mean, when you have a guy talking about the Constitution the way that Mad Dog does, who clearly doesn't understand what the Constitution says, yet is looked at on his side of the aisle as a constitutional scholar,
He's a fucking thought leader.
is scary, right? But again, no one is capitalizing on it. The Democrats, if they want to be anywhere near winning in 2022, should have already been capitalizing on it, and they're not. They're just not. And to me, it's extremely disappointing. And again, it's what you and I have harped about for 100 episodes now, and that's the fact that Democrats, real good at governing, real bad at campaigning. And this is just, to me, showing it again.
Bad at politics and just in general. Just to clarify, Wendy Davis, Holly McCormack, and Latifah Connor are the other candidates running
there's four.
on the Democratic
There's
side.
4 already.
I believe I've heard of Holly McCormack and Wendy Davis, and then Marcus Flowers. I don't know if there's any. I've seen the most out of Marcus Flowers. I don't know if there's any favorite or anything.
I've seen Marcus some, but not enough. I haven't seen any of these people enough. Just look, I know it's early, but capitalize on everything. Take advantage of what they're doing, because it's going to be forgotten. I'm telling you that right now. It's going to be swept under the rug. But if you can capitalize now and gain momentum and gain people on your side, you may have a chance to win. But if you continue to let MTG do what she does and let Mad Dog do what he does, you have no chance of winning that seat at all.
Yeah, and especially with these, Madison Cawthorn's might be a little bit different because it's slightly more competitive. But especially with Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat, you're not. No, what I'm going to say is you're not going to get a lot of national support from the actual party as far as resources go. So you really have to run a authentically grassroots national campaign. This is not you have to be local, of course, yeah, but it's also got to be a national campaign, because if you don't attract national attention to it, you're going to get fucking railroaded. Money, honey. That's the name of the game. It sucks, but it's true.
And Democrats are always like, we got to take money out. Well, you know what? For right now, money's in it, so you got to learn to raise it.
It sucks.
That's just the game.
Oh, it sucks.
It sucks. I had to do it. It's terrible.
Yeah, John had to be like, give me money so I can, run against this guy named Kump.
It sucks. I get that, but you have to be able to capitalize. And these are the areas where if they were to be able to go viral, responding to them, right? Chuck, you've seen it. Look at the amount of national donations that come into those campaigns that go viral, replying to something that some person has said that's stupid.
And it's cringy. Right? Don't get me. It is cringy as fuck. It is so fucking cringy, but it works, sadly.
But you gotta do it.
Madison Cawthorn is like, his name should be cringe, because that's what he is. Everything he says is an embarrassment. So you tweeting, I don't know. Twitter is not real life, but you do need to build some sort of following so you can get the money in and be able to run an actual campaign. And maybe they're doing it. I don't know.
Like, but I don't know. People want to tell me that followers don't equal votes. And, that is true to a point. But if you have no social media following, you're not going to win. I'm just telling you, because you're not going to raise money, because that's a great way to raise money right now, because you can't go knock on doors because of COVID, because of the people that you're running against continue to allow spread, which, again, you should be capitalizing on. To me, it's bad campaigning. It's not enough. And yes, maybe they're even talking about it, but if you can't go viral complaining about one of those two people and you're running against them, which I think Marcus even did go viral the first time he announced he was running, if I remember correctly. But you got to keep doing that, because it's a tough seat to win already. You got to raise money. You got to make it almost like you're running for president in something like that. In that area.
You really
do. Because if not, you can't win, because the people that live there likely aren't going to donate to your campaign, or not going to donate a lot to your campaign in terms of percentage-wise, but you need the nation to back you. That's how you win those. So if you're running against them, congrats. You're now running a presidential campaign. Get on it.
Yeah, and I mean, MTG, my God, she's got so much money. So much money.
Incredible. You have to work now.
Yep.
You should have already been raising money.
Again, I haven't looked at the Q3s are going to be coming out at the end of this month. We'll check that. We'll also check out JD Vance, see if he's raising any money. But yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle. But we got to fight. We got to fight like fucking hell, or else what are we doing?
Yeah, and I'm looking right now. Like it looks like Marcus is raising money. So I want to make that clear. But so, for instance, Marcus is leading the Democrats with money on hand in that race with $234,000. Marjorie Taylor Greene spent $1 million last quarter.
Yeah, and that's like nothing. She'll get all of it.
She's already brought in $3.2 million. You gotta step up. That's all I'm saying.
For a small ass house race that literally she doesn't even have committee assignments. She does not matter in that sense.
Right, exactly. She doesn't have real power, but her words have power to the general public. Yeah, that's the problem.
Exactly. She's not delivering for her constituents, I guess is my opinion.
I know. You're exactly right. So anyway, good luck to you if you're running. This again, I'm not angry at you. I just want you to do better because I want to see you win. I want to see you do a great job. So take this beef and ignore it or run with it. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you. That was a good beef, a solid, meaty win on this 100th episode. Thank you all so much for being with us throughout this whole time. Really so grateful and really appreciate it a lot. Check out all the links. And check out, we just posted the nomination link for our award show coming up. So get on that shit. Get on that shit. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you so much, and good night.